Valentine's Day is in just 2 days, so if you don't have a reservation yet, we suggest you skip the fancy dinner out and instead make this fancy dinner at home. Succulent lobster stuffed pasta in a rich cream sauce, topped with decadent lump crab. Whip up a cocktail and light a candle, and I'd say you'll be in for a good night. To start off with, we're going to need 2 roughly 4-ounce lobster tails. I went ahead and just steamed mine, but you could also poach them or boil them until they're just cooked through. And then you're going to want to find a way to cut open that bony carapace and pull out all of that lobster meat. Definitely make sure you get all of it and then set it aside. And you want to really finely chop this up. We're going to be putting it into some wonton wrappers or pasta, and you don't want big chunks in there. Next up, we'll grab about a cup of ricotta cheese, season that up with salt and pepper, and then pull all the zest off of 1 medium lemon. Add that to the bowl, followed by 2 to 3 crushed cloves of garlic. Go ahead and give all that a mix so all those flavors are really well combined, and then add all of your shredded lobster meat right on top. And then we're going to take an 8-ounce can of lumped crab meat. You could use claw or special as well, and add about half of that to our ricotta mixture. And it's okay if you break up that crab meat somewhat. Those are pretty big pieces, but we don't want to totally shred it. Just get that incorporated into the ricotta mix. Go ahead and set that in the fridge. And you know what? You could definitely make homemade pasta. We've done that here on the channel before, but it can be a labor. And even if it's a labor of love, it may be one that you want to skip on Valentine's Day. So one other option instead is to grab some wonton wrappers from the produce section in your grocery store, lay them down and brush them with an egg wash. That egg wash is going to help the pasta stick together for us. Once you've brushed a few, lay down a heaped teaspoon of the filling right in the middle of the ones that you brushed with the egg wash, and then take ones that have not been brushed and lay them over the top. And then definitely some practice will help you with this, but you just want to slowly press down around the filling, pressing out the air as much as you possibly can, and then sealing those edges with as much of a straight line as you can manage. At the end of the day, they're not going to be perfect, but they're handmade and homemade, and there's some value to that in and of itself. Optionally, you can use a cookie cutter, ring mold, or just a sharp knife or blade to crimp the edges off of these if you want to, or leave them rustic. Again, that's totally up to you. If you have a ravioli cutter, even better, but then you probably made ravioli before if you've got one of those. Go ahead and rinse and repeat with the rest of your filling and wonton shells and set those aside. And when you're ready to eat, grab some olive oil and a minced shallot and add that to a skillet over medium-high heat. We want to sweat that, soften it up just a little bit. Then we'll add in a splash of dry white wine, maybe 3/4 of a cup or so. Season that up with salt and pepper and reduce it by half. Once it's reduced by about half, we're going to add in some heavy whipping cream, maybe a half a cup or so. As usual, all the exact amounts, or the suggested amounts, will be down below for you. We'll add in about a tablespoon of freshly chopped tarragon. If you don't like the flavor of tarragon, you could go with basil or just chives. Reduce that down somewhat as well, and then I've got in about 1/4 cup of roasted red peppers, which I finely diced just for a nice smokiness and sweetness to accent the sweetness of the seafood, really bring it out. We'll go ahead and boil our ravioli for 3 to 4 minutes until they're just cooked, and you'll know that because they'll be beginning to float in that boiling water. And then take them out of the boiling water, drain them as much as you can, and add them to our cream sauce. Be gentle with these, they're very delicate whether you use fresh pasta or the wonton wrappers. Neither one are very thick, so be gentle and loving. Stir them into that cream sauce and then you can kill the heat. The last thing I'm going to do, and this is optional, is take the rest of that crab meat and brown it up in some brown butter in a non-stick skillet and use that as an extra fancy and succulent garnish. Spoon over a little bit of that brown butter as well, and of course garnish with some chives. There's definitely a few steps involved here, but especially if you use the store-bought wonton wrappers, this all can come together in about an hour to an hour and a half. Even better if you have your sweetheart in the kitchen helping you make your ravioli. Look at that wonderful creamy filling. That pasta is just so tender. You get the sweetness from the lobster and the crab meat in there. That really nutty brown butter and seared crab meat is just an absolute delight. Yeah, you've skipped a fancy dinner out, but this is definitely a very fancy and elegant dinner for your Valentine this Valentine's Day. I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks so much for watching. As always, all the best, and go make something delicious.